Everyone, what's up? And welcome back to another episode here on the Party Poker Streets playing micro stakes pot Limit Omaha. Today I got two tables open of fast forward. We're gonna jump right into the action here, but before we do so, I want to quickly show one hand that I played just before starting actually the recording. I set the tables up to make sure the setup is correctly here and the recording is working. And we played this hand and let's quickly see what happens. So we have King 10 deuce trip suited on the button. We decide to call versus the cutoff open. It is somewhat questionable because the rake is so high and our hand is pretty disconnected. But I think we can go for it. The big blind calls and the flop comes down ace king 6. The big blind is checking his entire range. At least he should check his entire range, and he does check here. Now the cutoff goes for a pot size bet, and we have a decision to make. Do you want to call? Do you want to raise here? And if so, why? Let me know in the comment section below what you would have done here. I decided to call here. We have definitely one of the weaker kings that we can have here. I like to see a turn first before deciding whether or not to put more money in here. There are a lot of turns where my hand becomes way less strong here, and therefore often the weaker combinations often go into a calling, a passive action, and the stronger combinations go into an aggressive action. So here I do decide to make the call in position and the big blind folds. Now the turn is the 3 of clubs, my opponent pots, and at this point we can either raise or call. I think the SPR is small or low enough basically that we can go for a raise here just to get it in. There are still a lot of draws out there, and also a lot of rivers will kill my action if we would still have the best hand here, if my opponent would miss, or if a draw completes and my opponent doesn't put any money into the pot anymore with a hand that I'm beating right now. Especially like the ace of spades is out there, of course, like the nut flush draw with top pair, which is a very likely hand he can have here after potting twice. He can, of course, have aces, but we cannot do much about that. Then the money will go in anyway. So I was sort of timing out here, whether or not raising or calling. I ended up quickly min raising just because my time bank was short. The money goes in here and we end up doubling up against, let's see what he has. Can we see it? All right, here it is. It's ace king 8-7. So he did have top pair with the nut flush draw, or top 2 pair actually, ace king with the nut flush draw. He turns also the nut flush draw with the club, so an extremely strong hand. Nothing he can do there. I mean, he can bet smaller on turn. He can bet smaller on the flop, but it's all good, I would say. And we're doubling up here. So that's the first hand. And we're gonna right away play the action here. And let's see what happens. So 2 tables fast forward today. We're playing Pilo 5 cent, 10 cent. There are around 60 entries now into the pool. And we're going to see what happens. Definitely a hand we're open raising here. So this format with the fast forward, I will only show one table. Otherwise, it's going to be too complex. It goes too fast. And I think this way we have a nice focus on what's interesting, actually. Last session, we played some regular tables, which I enjoyed a lot. Make sure to check that out. Uploaded that one before this one. And yeah, so far I'm enjoying these games quite a bit. Hope to show all of you a little bit like how these games are performing, how people play. Hands like these are definitely folding in the small blind. On the button, I see a lot of low stakes and micro stakes players open raising too tight on the button. Now this hand is definitely a fold, but you want to make sure that you do open raise enough hands on the button. Generally speaking, you want to raise around 50% of your hands there. And make sure to try and aim for that number because there are a lot of players playing too tight in the blinds. So you can steal wider, and even numbers over 50% can often be correct there. Here we sit in the big blind, ace, jack, jack 8, single suited. Definitely going to play this hand. Could potentially squeeze, but against an early position raise or an MP raise, basically, I think calling is a little bit better. We flop middle set on a very dynamic board. We could decide to lead, but my hand doesn't play great on a lot of runouts, so I'd rather check this hand first and go from there. So we do face a pot size bet. And at this point, I'm going to go for a call. Just to see a turn first, deciding whether or not to put more money into the pot. Like, I have a very marginal middle set, of course. Like, we do have a strong hand, but still... still, we are behind against, like, obviously queens on the flop, but a lot of turns and rivers basically will change the nuts here. And as my hand lags back up, it's very difficult to handle that. So I think calling there is fine. Here we do defend, big blind versus small blind. We flop top and bottom pair, and we are going for a call. That's a bad turn for my hand, but also for my range. My opponent's range will connect better with the ace, so he will do quite a bit of betting on this turn. And against a reasonable sizing, we're going to let it go. In the meantime, we pick up aces here, small blind, big blind. We're going to 4-bet. Ace is 6-3. Here we're just 4-betting all our aces, and we flop extremely strong. But we do have a pair in our own hand. We do have the 3 also. I still think that we want to go small here. Trying to induce. We will also have some bluffs, of course. Like, we will 4-bet some double suited rundowns that miss. So those hands don't necessarily want to pot. And I'm not sure what this guy is doing, but he's just jamming total air. So we double up. That's good. Here we defend pretty wide. My hand is pretty gappy. I don't like it too much. We turn 2 pair here. And we can really go either way, checking or betting small. We bet small and we take it down. Folding this hand. If we would have any reads on these that these guys are extremely tight, then just you can definitely open it. Opening kings here, pretty standard. This combination on the cutoff. I see a lot of players open raising too many kings in many positions, playing too many kings versus 3-bets. Kings should be played very cautiously in many spots. Be extra aware of that. Here we flop bottom pair, backdoor nut, flush draw. We're going to check. And obviously check fold versus a pot size bet. This is a hand we fold. It's too disconnected. We open raise ace, queen, jack 4. And in the meantime, we 3-bet over 200 big blinds deep here with aces. Flop is a7, 4 two-toned. This is a board. We will bet a lot, but not entire range with those 2 low cards. We bet and take it down. The side cards on an ace-high board still have a huge impact on the strategy. The better they are for our range, the more we want to bet. The weaker they are for our range, the more we want to check. Here we have aces, open raising. And queen, queen. We unblock kings, which is helpful. I'm going to bet. I want to bet like this sizing. We get raised. It's not great. I mean, we do have to call for sure one time. See what happens. We can flop. We can definitely check back the flop for sure. It's not a great spot. Just find it hard to believe that people will have a lot of bluffs here. But I will call again. At this point, I would have also bet like my queen X on the flop. That is in my range now. Aces, maybe some king X, some bluffs. And I think we're gonna let this go. The fact that he did check raise versus two opponents on the flop makes his range stronger. And maybe makes me want to check a little bit more often on the flop. I'm not entirely sure. Not too happy there, but those things happen. All good. This is a hand. We got two pair. We got some blockers. I'm still going to bet here, even though we have decent showdown value. We take it down. In the meantime, here we flop top pair with a gutter, no backdoor flush draw in a 3-bet pot. Interesting turn. We turn an additional gutter. 20. I think I'm gonna bet it actually. We take it down. We have a lot of additional equity there. If we get raised, it's not the greatest spot, but we have to deal with it then. Here we open raise very standard. And obviously, let me know if you have any comments or questions about any of the hands or in general here. We're obviously open for a discussion or sharing some thoughts about strategy. In our PLO Mastermind subscription course, we also make quite a bit of plain explains in a sense, but we do them generally a little bit different. We go deeper into hand analysis. We use softwares to analyze spots. We run simulations, and we just dive deeper in understanding how the spot operates. If you're interested in learning more about the PLO Mastermind or whatsoever, always feel free to ask me in the comment section or check out our Discord channel. Here we do have two pair, but they are very weak two pair. But these players check. He checks twice, he checks back, and the 4 is unlikely to improve him now. So I think I still have the best hand. I need a lot of protection, I would say, so I'm going to bet large. We could definitely check here because we don't have backup. And on the river, I think we have a value hand. The question is, how likely is it to get value? Because so many draws missed. So I'm actually going to check, try to induce bluff. Spades missed, all the straight draws missed. So I think it's a pretty good candidate to check call. And he did had like, yeah, he had the missed flush draw, the missed straight draw. So I think we played that one pretty well. Cold call here, a little bit loose. Generally don't want to do this, I would say, but we are very deep with this person. Not a great flop for my range. Like my calling range has a lot of high pairs. Let's see if we can get a check. We don't, and we're just folding here without any backup. I'm not sure with this one, to be honest, whether it's a call or a fold. I'm gonna call it, but I could be totally off there. Turn. I will check again. If we would now have like a 10 or a deuce, we could check raise bluff. And now on the river, I think I'm actually potting. Like my range is still somewhat uncapped. Like I check my range on the flop. I check part of my strong hands on the turn. I got a blocker to like king queen. He ends up with king queen, which is fine. I still think my bluff is okay. Here we got 2 pair and a gutter. And we're gonna call. I would raise stronger 2 pairs. Against the turn double barrel. This sizing. Gonna call again. Like, I think my gutter is still good if he uses this sizing. I'm gonna fold. Doesn't seem like a sizing he's bluffing a lot with. Just from a population tendency perspective. I think he would use different sizings most likely. This seems very value having. 2 pair, top 2 pair, maybe a set with a straight blocker, something like that. Folding this one. I'm keeping these episodes on like 30 minutes or so. I think that's totally fine. This is a hand we're raising it up with. We take it down. You really want to try and build some reads on these players. Like I've seen this player, for example, in most of my sessions so far. And we flop an open-ender here. No backup, no blocker. I cannot check call. The board is pretty good for my range, so I'm actually bet folding. So let's see what happens. You really want to try and learn to think as much as possible in ranges. Like how wide is he calling? How wide are we raising? How good is the board for both ranges? And then make a decision whether or not you want to bet, check, etc. Here we raise, we flop middle pair, open ender, backdoor flush draw. On our board, we will bet quite a bit. Good pot. I'm gonna pot actually, see what happens. That's a very bad turn, obviously. And we're checking. We lose. In the meantime, we've turned a very strong card here. 3-bet pot, we check back flop in position 3-way. Turn is an 8. He checks, he bets now, and we're gonna get it in now. That's a terrible river. Guys, oh, this is not great. I mean, we just got a call, but look at this. Yep. Yeah, that's a shame. He had top pair with a nut flush draw. We had an over pair with a wrap and a flush draw. So we were doing pretty good there, I would say. Although he also had quite a bit of outs. Yeah, that's a shame. Here it goes check, check, flop, turn, river, and on the river, like, we are at the bottom of our range, so I'm just going to check. Or just going to bet, try to take it down. We take it down. Yeah, let's quickly look at that hand. I'm going to sit out here for a second. This is a check. You want to bet top pair with like better backup. Backdoor nut flush draw, for example. Helps a lot. Some more overcards could help. We turn a gutter. We also have the jack of hearts, so I don't mind betting now. We take it down. We cold call the small blind here against the cutoff. We're gonna check. And we will check call. And on this turn, I'm gonna lead. Bet small. We're potting river. Not sure about my turn sizing. We take it down. Okay. Okay, guys, let's look at this hand here. What happened? So we're sitting on the button here. Jack, Jack, 9, 7, double suited. Cutoff opens. We are a little bit deeper than 100 big blinds. Three betting here is fine. The small blind calls. He should do this almost never at this stake level, but apparently he does. The flop is very dry. They both check, and we have a decision on the flop. Like we could definitely pot here with quite a bit of hands because we have a lot of aces here. We have a lot of overpairs, and this hand is probably close between potting or checking. I decided to check, but the Jack Jack 9 combination is also blocking some 10x, and I don't mind betting to fold out kings and queens here. Fold out an ace, a king, a queen, like hands that have equity. So I rather would have seen myself betting actually. Because this board also is so strongly for my range. So I don't like my check in hindsight. Turn is an 8. He checks, he bets large. And at this point, I mean, we have probably one of the best candidates we can raise with. Although we don't have a blocker to the board, we don't block sets or two pairs. I mean, we turn a lot of additional equity. We want to have some raises here, and this is probably one of the best candidates to do it with. We raise, and he calls. Not sure why he calls and doesn't just get it in. River is pretty unfortunate with the ace. And at this point, we're losing against ace 10. Pretty standard turn, I would say. Flop, I would have liked myself seeing betting there. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on, guys. Nice hand here. Ace, king, 5, 4 double. This hand is a fold, like the 4-6 is too disconnected there. I would say people overvalue that combination quite a bit, so you want to be careful there. This is a fine open. Hand can also call a 3-bet, which we are going to do. Unfortunately, we totally miss, so it's a very easy fold. Against the small blind 3-bet, my queens are pretty disconnected. He will have a tight 3-betting range here, I would expect, so I don't mind just folding this one, to be honest. And here we will go ahead and bet. Here we do go for a cold call. We're not cold calling too much, but this one is one of those hands that's fine to do it with, I would say. In the meantime, we get cold here. Turn is a 10. I'm gonna check. Try to get a bluff now, or a value bet by some weaker hands. Don't expect him to call me with weaker hands too often, turn and river. So here, I would say we're just calling. And yeah, this is a nice bluff that we now induced by checking. Here we will fold. Pretty gappy with the two gaps at the bottom, so I'm folding. Here we have a decent hand. We will 3-bet. Against the button. And betting small. With the two wheel cards, we definitely will check a couple of hands. Against a pot-sized raise, we just have to fold now. Here we got aces. Putting in some more money. Let's see if we can find an interesting spot here. There we go. Alina is going for the call. And then come over the top. And we have an easy decision, of course. Money goes in. He can also stack off with a lot of hands now. Let's see if he... Okay. What's happening? We're splitting aces. Okay. Fine. Yeah, seems pretty standard. Maybe white here with the deuce 3. Not in love with it. Here we cold call in position. With very disconnected kings. And on the flop, I mean, we just have a standard call. Turn a flush. When you think about his leading range on the flop, like, he will lead definitely some nut flush draws, some 6x, maybe some boats, maybe some nut flush blockers. So I don't see too much value in betting now. Wow, what a river. What a river, guys. Okay, so we're betting, of course. In the meantime, we have a pretty strong hand here. We cold call pre-flop and flop goes check, check. Turn we lead. We could check again just because we have such a huge overkill. But I think it's unlikely he's going to do the betting suddenly on that card if he checks back the flop. Let's see. This hand, lastly. Gonna call. A little bit more of a struggle today somehow, I feel. There were some interesting hands, some bigger pots, winning a few, losing a few. This is a check. So, sort of mixed feelings. Let's call it like that. Turn. Check again. River check. Okay. In the meantime, we open raise and we face a lead now, a very unusual lead on this board. We have a pair, a gutter, backdoor flush draw, but he does lead pretty big. And we do have a lot of many better hands that will call here. So I'm actually fine folding this one. Opening kings here, if we get the chance to. Here, these are same as the king, queen, queen before. Like, we should actually just fold them. So let's fold them. at low stakes, micro stakes. You want to be very careful when it comes to cold calling. The only kings you want to play are the strong connected ones. And then some you 3-bet, some you call, and fold ends like this. Okay, that's going to be it, guys. Hope you enjoyed this one. Make sure to use the comment section if you have any questions about it. As usual, feel free to join us all together on Discord. Link is below. And also check out the PLO Mastermind if you're interested in learning more about Pod Limit Omaha, myself, as well as 3 other Pod Limit Omaha coaches. Mid stakes, high stakes, a lot of action, a lot of content is all out there. Okay, take care, guys. Have a good day. See you soon.